everyone, welcome back to Kingdom College. It's Celine and I'll be going through the Selective High School Trial Test Power Reading Test 19 with you guys today. So let's get started. So we have questions 1 to 4 with this extract. It's an advertisement, so we'll get into it. But before we actually answer these questions, I just wanted to give you guys a recommendation, which was to identify your text type before actually engaging with the questions. I really recommend this or recommend doing that because I think it gives people, like audiences at least, a better understanding of the text and its purpose, so you understand why someone would have written a text like this and perhaps what reaction or emotion they're trying to incite from you, right? So for example, we have this advertisement, so immediately we know that they're trying to sell us a product or a service. Advertisements also tend to be they try to be quite convincing or entertaining. Some of them are even very colloquial, very relaxed, right? But ultimately they're really just trying to sell you something, okay? And sometimes they also have a target audience, because the product is or service is specifically catered, or it's supposed to try and be a solution for that said target audience. So now let's get into actually analyzing the text and answering these questions. So, very quickly. So, the product we have here is called Scrub Out. Okay. So yeah, let's just keep that in mind as we answer these questions. So number 1, this advertisement is targeting which age group? Okay. So we have anyone who needs a product, mostly teenagers, young children, and people who are vain. We can also read the question, which is something that we should be doing immediately. It says age group, right? A and D are immediately out because it's not for an age group, right? Anyone who needs the product, those can be children, teenagers, adults, and young adults, etc. People who are vain, that's just a personality trait, like people who like to look at themselves are kind of self-obsessed. You can have that trait or attribute at any time in your life. So it's not an age group. But mostly teenagers and young children, those are specifically stages of life, right? So if we actually take a look at the extract, well, at least if we try and find out the target audience, we actually have over here at the top in the big bold black text, if you've got blackheads, oily skin, or pimples, here are the only things you should squeeze. So people with blackheads, oily skin, or pimples, okay? So that's the target audience. Anyone with those blackheads, oily skin, or pimples. If we take a look at teenagers or young children don't really have these traits of blackheads, pimples, oily skin. Pimples are usually that's something that you usually experience when you're going through puberty, so you should be a teenager around that time. So yeah, that's why the answer should actually be B, instead of C. Question 2 introduces us to a second product. So the product free and clear is mainly used by A, B, C, or D. Okay, so for A and B, we have audiences. So we're going to try and find out if they're trying to tell us the target audience or if it's the purpose or the purposes. So C and D. So if we refer to the text, let's take a look where it says free and clear. The first time they actually tell us free and clear is here in the second paragraph. And the very first sentence already says helps dry out pimples on face, chest, shoulders, and back. Okay. Now over here, it's interesting to note that they actually try and tell us guys can use it day or night and girls can use it under their makeup, right? So if we take a look at the answers we are given in A and B, it is trying to say like, oh, for A, only boys can use it, but that's not true because girls can wear it under their makeup. And same with B, it's almost as if saying that only girls can use free and clear, but that's not true because it actually recommends guys to use it as well. Now, D, to remove blackheads, they haven't mentioned blackheads, right? The sentence actually explicitly states C, to dry out pimples. That's at least what the sentence explicitly states. Now, if we take a look at question 3, the advertiser uses the word gently when describing the product scrub out. What would be the reason for this? So let's take a look at the product scrub out specifically, okay? They've also highlighted and underlined the word over here. So let's take a look at that sentence. Because of its formula, you can actually feel scrub out working, gently cleansing your skin and helping remove blackheads wherever they disappear. So the tone of this sentence is actually very like soft. It also makes the product sound convenient and easy to use, right? Compared to perhaps like something that's very harsh or something that requires a lot of steps and a lot of processes. So by using gently, the advertiser actually convinces us that it's very convenient. You can probably like it won't hurt you. So the answer should actually be B. Yeah. So any any other answer, like for example C, is actually it's actually showing us like a bad thing, right? It's trying to give us like a disclaimer, right? But usually disclaimers are not good in advertisements because it kind of shows that the product isn't really safe to use, and then people are less likely to buy it because there's that risk that it could go horribly wrong. Okay, let's move on to question 4. So what arguments does the advertiser put forward for using scrub out? Okay, let's refer back to that sentence again because I think that was a really convincing one. So because of its formula, you can actually feel scrub out working, gently cleansing your skin and helping remove blackheads wherever they appear. So the argument being put here is actually that the product is very effective, right? Like it does its job because you can physically feel the smoothness of your skin instead of a bumpy blackhead, right? So that's why the answer is C. Moving on to questions 5 to 7, we're going to be reading an extract presumably from a chapter of a book or of a book in general. It's a fictional story, and we know this because there's a bunch of dialogue, and also we can assume that these characters are trolls. Now, the reason for that is because of the names. So we have Trugmar, troll, and then we have Tremor, troll, and Treasure, troll. Right, last names of troll, we can just assume they're trolls, right? And we also know it's in a classroom setting from the second sentence. The new girl in class really liked him, right? So that's just the basics of this extract. Once again, just things I'd like you guys to look out for so that the questions are easier to answer, right? So now let's get into the questions. Now, question 5, according to Tremor, Trugmar is A, B, C, or D. Now, Trugmar has a very negative attitude, so the answer would actually be A. Now, I'm sure some of you may assume that or may think that B, C, and D are actually very similar to A, but I just want to clarify why they are not the answer. So B for ugly, right? We don't really have a description or physical description of Trugmar, and also for ugly to be the answer, that would have to be Trugmar's defining quality, right? But Trogmar's defining quality is actually that they are very disrespectful, particularly to Treasure Troll, who has a crush on them, right? Impolite and crazy. Now, to put it lightly, Trogmar is a bit more than just impolite. Trogmar is far more rude, right? And crazy is also a bit, this one is a bit of a stretch. It's also a bit of an offensive term, right? Where this is actually, crazy is actually insulting Trogmar, right? They're not asking us to insult Trogmar. They're asking us to basically state what Trogmar's attitude is like. And unusual in appearance, once again, not the most defining quality, and also not much of a description, at least. So we have not very pleasant, right? If you guys are unsure of why Trogmar is very unpleasant, there's actually multiple examples of this, right? So firstly, the fact that Trogmar is very dismissive, dismissive of Treasure Troll's feelings, like the fact that Trogmar is willing to be rude and disrespectful to Treasure Troll rather than communicate their feelings as well, so very unpleasant. And also, or more specifically, right, in this piece of dialogue, I would say, Tremor is trying to see if there is anything that Trogmar, any methods that Trogmar can use to approach the situation in a bit more of a civil and calm manner, but Trogmar refuses and says like, oh, I'm going to be mean and rude to her, basically bully her and stuff, and then Tremor says, that's how you treat everyone, which really aligns with this part of the question, according to Tremor, okay? And the fact that Tremor says that as well, right? Tremor basically admits that Trogmar is mean just in general, right? So it's not really like a new method, but yeah, Tremor is just basically agreeing that Trogmar is mean and rude. Yeah, not just to Treasure Troll, but to everyone else. Right, now for question 6. How did Trogmar feel about Treasure? Now, Trogmar, once they found out that Treasure was fond of them, he was very angry, right? We can take a look at this piece of dialogue. Also, just take a look, looking at this piece of dialogue, Trogmar is very angry at Tremor for basically trying to say that Treasure Troll is not a bad person, saying that, oh, she's cute, she seems nice, she seems sweet, and Trogmar is immediately, right, goes straight to insulting both Tremor and Treasure Troll, right? So by saying like, oh, why don't you go ask her, right? Like, maybe you guys should be together. And also, we can take a look at the following dialogue. It says, well, I don't want any girlfriend, especially not a weird, pesky one like her. So he continues to insult her. And also, if we take a look at this piece of dialogue again, like we did in question 5, Trogmar seems as if he wants to make her feel bad, or basically just try and get her out of their life, right? Like, because she has feelings for him, or she's interested in him, right? So question 6, for A, he absolutely did not enjoy that attention. He also didn't think that she was very pretty. He called her pesky, right? And C is not true, because he if that were the case, then Trogmar would not be ranting about Treasure. So B is the only reasonable answer. He felt annoyed, just true. You see a lot of anger in this extract, and revengeful, which is true, because it seems as if he wants to punish her for her interest in him. Now, last question, which statement is true? A, Trogmar pretended to be rude in order to make Treasure stop liking him. This is not true. This is not stated in the extract. Also, pretended, that's not true because Trogmar is generally a very mean person, which was stated in that dialogue. Now, for B, Tremor thought that looks were more important than personality. That's not necessarily true because Tremor actually states that over here in this line of dialogue that he actually commends her for looking really pretty, but also noting that her personality is what has won him over. So it's not stating that looks are more important than personality. It's actually saying the opposite of that. Now, for D, Trogmar offered his dessert to Treasure to make him sick. This never happened, so that's not the answer. And C, Tremor thought that Treasure was cute. This one is true. So not just by process of elimination, but we can actually take a look at the dialogue. I'll mark this one in red, where he says, I think Treasure Troll is kind of cute. Yeah. So, okay, so for test 19, I'd like you guys to basically try and identify the text type of the extracts you're reviewing, okay? This makes it easier to understand what the composer is saying and why they have written that text. And by doing so, you also kind of specify what kind of techniques they would be using, right? So for example, if it's a poem, then you can look at poetic techniques, right? Or if you're looking at a speech, you can take a look at persuasive techniques and modality and such, right? So it becomes easier for you guys to identify what kinds of techniques. You don't need to, like in a test, you don't need to pause and start analyzing the text as if you're going to write an entire essay or a paragraph about it, considering it's multiple choice. You will most likely just read it, and then with practice, this habit of identifying the text type will just be it will be like it's nothing to you, okay, because you've done it so much. So I would really like you guys to practice that. Obviously, for short answer and long response, like please take the time to really deconstruct the text and perhaps even focus on a specific detail that you would like to talk about in your response. But considering that we're only going through multiple choice in these videos, that's just a skill I'd like you guys to develop. Now, secondly, we actually saw this a bit in about the first and second extract of semantics, okay? So consider why they are using that specific word. Semantics is basically when you have a word, for example, walk, right? But you can say it in many different ways, right? So a walk, maybe you have a bit of a run or something, or sorry, morning walk, or like in a colloquial sense, I think I've seen around like lazy girl walk or something, like cool girl walk, whatever, something like that, right? So consider why you would say it like that, because what kind of tone is it, right? Lazy girl walk is very colloquial. It's also kind of funny, right? But if it's just like a walk down your childhood home, maybe it's very nostalgic, or maybe you're doing a walk home after going to school, so maybe it's very calm. So really consider that. And yeah, so that's all for today, and I'll see you guys in the next video.